So the head tilt is pretty much the biggest problem here. Also, you did not look up a reference for the body. If you did, you have not read the reference properly. If you look up a reference for the body, mistakes like using one shape for this part of the torso, one shape, like a sausage shape for the thighs, all of that stuff is avoided because what happens in the reference obviously being the real thing, and if you have the eye for the real thing, so you know what to look out for, you will imitate what is in the reference both in the skeletal structure and in the muscular structure. So what will happen is that you will have a beautiful balance because you are guided by the reference. The reference will tell you over here you'll have a bit of a silhouette. It'll start right behind the breast, and then you'll have a bit of a bone jet on this side, and the tilt will read through the hips, primarily through the hips. So one hip will be higher than the other, one leg will be leaning, and the other will be straight. And then the shoulders also respond with their own personal tilts as well. So that is what happens when you look at a reference. You get information that helps you in reproducing the image. I know that's like no duh, but what I mean by that is you will see the lines, you will see the construction, you will see the way the object stacks on each other, and you'll automatically, because you're a visual thinker, start seeing the shapes you need to reproduce that. So instead of having to depend on your visual library, which is just a big, mucky, blurry twilight zone, if you're using only your mind or you're drawing from memory, it's just too undependable that you will build bad habits in the way you draw a stomach. For instance, if you don't look up a reference in the next 2 weeks, for the next 5 months, you will start developing a really, really bad habit of drawing stomachs that look like this, instead of drawing stomachs that read with a real sort of anchor for realism. Stomachs that represent real anatomy, stamps, which line art, I've been referring to it as stamps lately because that's pretty much what it is. Line art is a stamp or a silhouette of the form. So exactly what you see in the reference, please try to reproduce it in your images. Do not depend on your visual library, especially if you haven't studied stomachs enough. I mean, if you haven't studied stomachs like specifically for like at least a week, you are not entitled to draw a stomach without having done that, because the stomach you draw will not read. The stomach you draw will be very low render compared to the head. So you know how to draw a face, absolutely, and the rendering level you have up here on the face is drawing all of the attention up here, and we are seeing practically zero detail compared to this. So this is 100% detail, like we've reached the 100% potential detail that you're capable of as an artist on this painting, and then comparing that to the stomach, comparing that to the legs. I don't know if it's finished yet. It seems like it's finished because you've got the barbed wire and the sign, the signature, sorry, but I think you need to look up a good reference, get some real anatomy going, get the dark spots in the anatomy as well. A stomach belly button is a dark spot. It helps create the value spectrum on the body. Very similar to the nostrils or the lip corners. And then on to the tilt. So saying that, I'm going to just go and fix the tilt of the head. Oopsie. So the tilt of the head right now is really iffy. It's sort of it's no longer really a tilt that is just representing a head tilt that is in response to something she's thinking or saying. It's more of a head tilt that is like a deliberate gesture, her deliberately trying to put her ear on her shoulder. So if you do want a tilt on the head that has more attitude to it, tilt her head to the other side. And what that will do is allow some of her hair to fall on her face just like you wanted, or just like you designed. I'm just trying to see it from past the lines. If I don't Control H, I can't see anything. Oopsie. Okay. So if you do want to reassert her attitude, her personality against this murky backdrop, I do recommend getting a good pose that'll sort of show her resilience and strength. despite sort of the environment that she comes with. And that's sort of what you're trying to do. Sort of, she's like a, you know, like a street rat, but also really tough. It has something of a personality to her. And all of that is in the pose and in the portrait. So you have that nice, sort of sad, but also very beautiful smile going on. And what you need to do is sort of, sorry, that's the dryer. Fucking dryer, attention whore. What you need to do is sort of get a good pose that'll reiterate all of that personality, so that will really translate and read over by the viewer. I use that word, damn it. One way to sort of support her pose, her head tilt, is of course to respond to it with hiding some of her head or some of her face in hair. Okay. And her head now seems a bit tilted over, so I'm just going to tuck it into the symmetry line that runs across the body. Just like so. And now, since we know that the light source is coming from above, any light that the face has on it, the skin also has that light on it. Because the skin is the same kind of material. So any light that the face skin is capable of, the body skin is also capable of. So that spectrum of value that the material, skin material allows. So what, be it dark gray to light gray, whatever the actual measurement, the skin of the body is also capable of it equally, because it's the same kind of material. It's still skin. So I'm just trying to find the best places to place these highlights. Just at the tops, up here. And then again, I'm going to jump into the liquefy and talk about the stomach one more time. The stomach seems to have like a really sort of its own kind of anatomy, and it reads just a little bit, just enough that you don't really know how to fix it. The breasts also seem to be moving outside of the torso. Remember, the breasts are attachments. They are accessories to the torso. They are not separate, you know, they're not connected by their own spinal cord, or they don't have their own little joint. The way you've drawn the torso, it's completely separated on all those parts. What you need to do is make it so that the torso comes first as the primary shape, and then the breasts sit on top. So what needs to be seen is, no matter how big her breasts will be, the back line should still be visible. And breasts don't fall outward, they fall out and then down. They don't fall outward completely to the side. Gravity still pulls them down. So what we need to see is this line here be a continuous line. And if you have a reference and take a look at it and try to find a sporty body. Sporty bodies, unless it's like, people with like almost zero body fat percentage or something. They don't have very large breasts unless they're like fake. So you'll find that sporty bodies, or the sporty body type, is very small breasted. So that'll sort of help to reassert the fact that she is a resilient, powerful character that is withstanding the sort of difficult environment that she lives in, or like the deadly environment, and that she's become a warrior and athletic in that way. That's another way you sort of reiterate the storyline. You try to explain the story. Character design isn't just about putting costumes together. It's about letting us see the world they're from with their costume. The costume is just one part of the big sort of design process. So what I did, I sort of brought in the lines. Sorry, and that's the washer. sort of brought in the lines of the torso, the silhouette lines, and I'm trying to keep everything on the same skeleton, on the same body, instead of making everything seem like it's coming out of a different thing. Also, with the way she's standing, her belt would be up just a little bit. Her crotch is a little bit high as well. She's got a very high-waisted pant, and I don't think you sort of calculated that in there. I think sometimes we all just, I don't know what aesthetic thing drove us to it, but we all draw really low pants on our character. And if you guys just think about how low these pants are going, it's like you're going to see the vagina any second. Try to know when you're doing the low pant and when you need the high pant, because if you're trying to do a low pant on a the way that, like we've seen just now, a low pant, and we don't even see the belly button, at that point it becomes really really uncanny and too long. The torso looks long because the low pant sort of stretched down the torso longer than it should be. So all I'm doing right now is just trying to show she's got like the flat belly, very athletic. I'm just trying to shade it around the torso, around the main core shadows of the torso. So in this lighting situation, the torso would be in shadow, because the upper body, the upper part of the torso, the chest, the diaphragm, all of that, all of those systems cast a shadow on the lower part of the torso, and the lower body. The hips would have a little bit of light coming out. Now sort of the body looks a little bit more anatomically sharp and correct if we just do a before and after from where we were. Before, do you see the head tilt was overdone? It's kind of, the reason why I said it's affecting her character is because she kind of looks like she's a doll and she lost her neck control. So you know how those some dolls come out and they look like they're sort of like puppets? That's sort of what I mean. She's got that puppet look to her, with the slacking neck and the slacking head, instead of an actual tilt. Now that's why I say go to references, because references will govern the anatomy better than your memory can. Flat out, I'm telling you right now, to all of you, your memory is not better than real life. Real life will do a better job at telling you what's there and what's not there than your memory can. Alright? Unless you're a robot. So this is before. This is after, just with a couple of little changes. I haven't changed the arms. I've just lowered the crotch, lifted the pant line up. You have most of the colors down. The colors are down. As for the character itself, it's not really centered. What we would want to see, what I would want to see, is a character sort of that, oopsie, a character that's sort of centered on the sort of the actual center of the canvas instead of thrown off to the top. So I'm just trying to make her match the back a little bit. Oh fuck, what did I do? So that's sort of something else that's really important. Making sure that the canvas surrounds your character properly. If you don't have that, then we're just going to make it even more difficult for us. So before, you had very little rendering up here, very little rendering up here, and then all the rendering was up here, and not just that, the head was all the way up in this corner. So all of this is empty except for the super detailed barbed wire and your signature. And that was it. There was no pant detail, there was no, and unless the image wasn't finished, and I don't know, maybe it wasn't, even though the signature's there, I'm not really sure. Nevertheless, please remember these rules are essential. They need to be followed. Composition isn't just something to blink your eye at. It's a big process, and it's a big part of your painting. It's basically the presentation of your painting. In anatomy, if you're painting a human, anatomy is like another thing that's super important in your painting. Nothing can really match up to how much it demands from your attention and your skill. What else? Portraiture, you have that down, but also the portrait, the face is pointless. It's not going to carry the photo. If you think that if you can draw a face, you can do anything, you're wrong. Because your face, no matter how well drawn, if everything is weak, the only thing the well-drawn face is going to do is make everything else look bad. Because it's so well drawn and everything else is so unrendered and so loose. So if you're going to render the face this much, you know you have to render everything else as much as that. So midtones, I think, would do a better job. Okay, so the amount of contrast in the face right now needs to be matched everywhere else. So I'm going to bring in the same dark spot on the eyebrows into the belly button. Make sure the belly button is just as dark as that, because I won't be able to prove that this is the same kind of material and that the belly button is the same kind of crevice or cavity that is in the lips. We need to show that, and I'm just going to use the sharpen tool to finish the job for me. So you see now there's more information, there's more to look at, and it looks less unrendered, less loose, less rough, and it looks more finished this way. Okay, so this part of the arm, this arm would be in shadow because it's leaning against the side of the body and it's facing down, and the upper arm or lower arm is facing upward, and that part is facing the light, and some of this arm is going to cast a shadow. Then we've got this arm over here. And this cloth is going to be casting a shadow. Alright, and then really just sharpen her, separate her from the background. Her crotch was way too over-rendered. Maybe you were having trouble with it. You can tell, especially if you're the teacher, you can tell where the student had trouble. It's very, very difficult for them to hide it. It's not easy to hide where you're having trouble. You can tell. Just trust me. Okay, so that highlight that you had on the pants. The pants are only highlighted where the thigh sticks out the most. Just make sure you're zoomed out. You're placing it in the right spot. And you see I brought some of the red of her cape onto her skin and onto her arm, because that's what's going to happen. The red, the pigmentation of the red is going to reflect onto the skin. And then when the skin gets it, the skin starts to release a redder version of itself. So it doesn't release the actual pigmentation, the actual red in the scarf. It releases the red of the scarf mixed in with the flesh. So you're going to have to do that as well. So work with low opacity in that department. Okay, so I'm just sharpening out her stomach side. I'm just going to get the smudge tool to save me some time. And I'm just sharpening out the pants from the cape. Don't overblend. Sharpening out her pants from the background. You have a good you have a good spirit to your character designs. There's a lot of love and a lot of spirit in your paintings. You love your paintings. It's very obvious. But if you can just spend a little bit more time, they'll be that much more rewarding when you're done. It won't be that painful a process either. It's not a bad thing to have references in the side. It's not a bad thing. Whoever told you is an idiot. That's if you know them and you tell them I called them an idiot, you know where I am, you tell them to find me. And I will tell them they're an idiot to their face. References help you. That's the only place you're ever going to get information that'll help you draw a successful looking human body. It's from the real world. That's where we will find references. If anybody has anything against that, you should not be an artist. An artist is an observer of physics. It's an observer of form. And form and physics and art are all one thing. They're all just interconnect. You would not be able to understand what light is if it wasn't for physics, or we would not be able to understand what form is and what an edge is and what the z-axis is and what three-dimensional form is if it wasn't for physics. And if you are not capable of capturing that in your mind just yet, use some references. The references will help you accept and deal better with this rule. And after a while, after using enough references, you'll build your own visual library that is more dependable than the one you have now. The one you have now is ditching you. It's not really helping you. It's leaving you in the dust when you really need it. It's because it doesn't have enough information in there. And you need to have more information before you start depending on it. So no, don't depend on your visual library. You may have a good visual library for faces because you've done a lot of work on faces, probably 2 or 3 more years of work on faces than you do on a body. That's a massive gap. If the difference between your work on a foot and your work on a face is years, that's a humongous gap that is absolutely visible in your canvases. It's not something you can hide very easily. No matter how many references you use, it's very obvious. You're going to have to start studying. Study the actual body, study the form, so that your interpretation of that form and your iteration of that form in the visual, sort of by painting, will be more successful and will be more accurate. Alright, so that's my critique for that. So before, after, tucked all the way at the top, zero detail on the stomach. The stomach is not as realistic as we need it to be. There's also the fact that the breasts were sort of like falling off the body because the torso wasn't really intact. The head tilt was a little bit off. Now her head tilt is a little bit more feminine, a little bit more, teasing, a little bit more with attitude, representing how much of a tough ass she is. And then her pose is very masculine. It's not some sort of girly pose with the legs together or like one leg up in the air or something like that. It's very masculine, demanding, soldier pose, but she also has her little personality going. And you want to be able to keep that concrete throughout your painting. You don't want to lose that attitude. You can lose that attitude with uncanny anatomy. It's just gone. It's gone in the before because it wasn't solid. It wasn't a solid pose. So we won't read it as the humans who constantly see and read gestures and read body language. This is not body language. This is disruption of anatomy. This is uncanny. This is body language, where the language of the body is translated through accurate anatomy. So there's that, and then we have this piece by let me get his name, by Terry Fletcher. Let me just drink some water. 1 second. Okay, so let me see what you guys are up to. Hey Estelle, when you make parts of the face lighter, what tool do you use? I use the dodge tool on midtones. Sometimes it's just my brush. Gotta go, guys. Bye, Christy. Thanks for coming, and I will try to my best to remember to answer the question about soft brush. Let me just probably forget it, but let me put it here beside my Atrox build. Okay, let me see if anyone has any questions. Okay. I'm not sure if anybody asked me anything else, but alright, let's jump on to this next. The faces that you draw, Terry, are always too small for the head. Always. You need to stop that. The best way to stop that is to always have a reference, as I always say. So where her head would be on this, her face would be on this head, is somewhere over here. Right along this size. Look at the hand and look at the head. They're a bit more matched now. Now look at the hand and look at where the head was before. Super tiny. So yeah, word of the session, reference. Thank you, Ado. So if you just remember that the hand and the head sort of have the same length, almost the same length, you won't make this mistake. Another thing that you do, Terry, is that you forget about the cube. Last time I showed you this, when we looked at your little hunter guy that you were drawing. I sort of showed you the cube where the cube was. And the cube is just, as I say all the time, it's just the z-axis. It's the sides and the angles, where you blend and where you do not blend. So all I'm doing right now is, you know the light spots I always talk about? I'm just lassoing those out so that I could illuminate them as if there was a light source coming from above. So Terry, what you do is you do gradual tone shading. You do not shade with a light source in mind. You shade as if it is one side is light and one side is dark, and Terry is like, hey Terry, this side is light, this side is dark, make them blend. You don't say to yourself, hey Terry, there's a light source somewhere up in this degree. It's a three-dimensional realm. The light source is at an angle. This form will reflect this because this face is exposed to this light source at this angle. There will be a slight variation. In this area there will be no blending because some cast shadows need to be. You need to get to that point, Terry. You need to get to the point where you're like, from thinking about it as a gradual tone from one side is dark to another side that's light, versus thinking about it as a 3D structure in a 3D form. Okay? So do you know what I mean, Terry? Are you with me? So the way you think about form is not at all. You don't think about form at all, and that's not a good thing. And I know it's a bit harsh, I'm very sorry, but someone needs to tell you that you need to start thinking about, start doing some form studies. Study some cubes just for the heck of it. What that will do is it'll start forcing you to think about the form in this way. Let me get my soft brush. So do you know what I mean, Terry? Did the chat go down? What happened? Soft light. So what I'm doing right now is I am just, yeah, it's fine. I guess Terry's not with us. I am just bringing in the light on the parts of the body that are being illuminated. Normal. God damn it. Okay. I'm just going to use the dodge tool. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just illuminating the corners and the sides that do touch the light source. And by doing this, what happens is that we'll start to reveal a form that is geared by a light source and nothing else. And that's how it is in real life. If the light source is not sharp, it's not intact, then the whole image will suffer. Because it will not look like this person is in a real room. It will look very flat and very unrealistic. And if you want something that's dynamic, that's as good as the people you admire, that's as good as the artists you admire, this is what they're doing. They're thinking about the presence of the light source, where the light source is in this world, and how it's responding to this character and their design. It's nothing miraculous, nothing new. It's the same old rules, same old fundamentals. And we're just responding to the light source by casting shadows along the areas the light is not touching. So these are the same shadows that I talk about, the dark spots versus the light spots. Just like this. And if she's got like blind eyes or something, you might want to illuminate them to make her look like a sage or some sort of seer. So what we're doing where you were before was very limited value range. It was from gray to lighter gray, or from gray to a darker gray. There was no highlight tone, and there was no shading in a way where we were responding to a cube and the light on the cube. And if that's not there, if the form comes into question, even a little bit, you know something's wrong. Because the form should never be the thing that is challenged in your image. I mean, go ahead and mess up the design, go ahead and mess up the composition. But the form is the last thing. The form should be your number one priority. It should be, the realism should always be intact. And if you have trouble finding where shadows are in a certain kind of object, look at how the shadows are in the real world. Light acts as a bunch of tiny little lines and vectors and constantly moving, and some things interrupt them, some things don't. Textures act differently with light sources. Building up a good visual library on how certain materials act with a light source can make you a much more powerful artist, because you'll never be caught off guard, especially if you're working with a reference. You'll know how to read it. So I'm just making the top of her helmet, her headpiece, her headdress a little bit lighter because it's facing up towards the light. Now I'm going to get the dodge tool, and I'm just going to make it build up toward a specific light point, and then everything else will just respond to that light point. So there'll be the tip of the nose will be lit. The shadow of her nose and the tip of the chin. And Elsa might want to make her nose a little bit bigger and more witch-like. I'm not even sure if that's what she is, but I'm just gonna, I think that's where it was before. And I sort of beautified it. If you do want to make her look like an uglier old witch, shrink her eyes. Just like this. Before she was a bit more beautiful, and now we sort of like gave away, you know, back to that ogre face where you have small eyes and then smaller, larger nose, to make her look more like a witch. If that's what she is, I don't know. Remember those creases on either side of the cheek also can make someone look old. And then hooded eyes as well can make someone look old. Lines around the cheeks, the lips on the cheeks, pressing against the cheeks. Like this. And then the chin. And of course, the bags of the eyes. So all that causes oldness in the picture, so I'm just going to sharpen that. And now the image has a bit more realism to it. So now I need to start casting shadows along the cube. So I cast lights along the cube, I have to start casting shadows along the cube. So the sides of her shirt, anywhere, of her hood, anywhere on her shirt area that is not facing the light. So I'm just going to get some shadows here. It should be a gradual movement upward toward her sleeve. Kind of looks like Gandalf now. And you don't want to have like a really basic gesture line for the sorry, I zoned out, for the cape. You want to be able to have a gesture line that is a bit more interesting to look at from a distance. If you look at the thumbnail, it's a really boring, square, basic shape for the cape or the shirt or tunic or whatever she's wearing. You want to spice it up a little bit. And again, with character designs, you don't want to have a landscape setting. You want to have it a bit more long so that you can have the character be a little bit more interesting. So where you could have a little bit of interest added, let me see. to the cape is if you sort of bring in a pose, a nice gesture. This sort of makes it seem like she's got a body under there and it's not just floating about. Select inverse. And now you have a bit more of an interesting pose for the witch that sort of seems like she's casting a spell. So you have to have a pose that supports that kind of arm structure, and then that fabric will get its own light source, and then you'll have this space underneath. So you have a chance to be a little bit more interesting. Give a bit more interesting gesture lines in the thumbnail, where we actually see a bit more intrigue. You can have the arm just like somewhere in the back, sort of trying to keep her balance. You can have her other hand somewhere nearby holding a staff, where you'll have another gesture line in the composition. And so now everything seems to be pointing to a spiral location here. So you have the tattoos, they could be glowing on her arm. Her head is part of the main spiral of the focal point, ending at her hand, traveling back, hitting her head, circling her arm, which is the main source of the pose, the main source of the gesture, and going back around toward her cape. So it's not just about character design, it's about presentation and composition as well. Okay, so let me just do a before and after. Before. Oh, fuck my life. Damn, forgot that I changed the canvas size. Okay, so before. Okay. Before. After. Before. After. The head was way too small for the body. The arm was fine, the cloak was fine, the design was fine, you were just not thinking cube. So you see now she's got a light side, and when I say cube, all I mean is this. This is the lightest side, this is the mid-tone, this is the mid-tone, and this is the dark side. So that's all I mean by cube. It's just the top part of the face, the front part, the sides, the edges that you don't blend over, the areas that you do blend and gradient through. That's what I mean by cube. As long as you start thinking about cubes, Terry, I think you're going to be fine. So before, after. Hello everyone, I'm new and I was watching your vids for quite a while and it helps a lot. I just started with drawing faces, but I wanted to say hi and also ask if I could submit one of my works. Yes, of course you can submit them. You can submit it here, but the best place to submit it is on Facebook. I'll get it much faster. Usually here the chat scrolls very quickly, so I don't get to the links right away. But please link it here if you can so I can put it into the queue. Terry, why do you want to show yourself out? We're all here to learn. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to be fun for someone to tell you everything you've been doing for the last 5 hours is a mistake. It's not a good thing. It's never going to be a good thing. Someone who comes into your room and something you've poured your heart into, you've worked your best, you feel like, yeah, I can draw. Fuck yeah, I can draw a witch, man. Then some jerk comes in here and says that a jerk like me says, everything you did was wrong, you need to be more realistic. I don't mean to destroy your spirit. I'm not critiquing your character's story nor their design. All I'm critiquing is your iteration of the realism and the physics and the form in a human body with light exposing it. That's all I'm doing, Terry. I'm not trying to diminish your sense of spirit and your storyteller attitude. I'm not trying to diminish your motivation to continue being an artist. All I'm here to do is to help you draw and render realistic objects that are three-dimensional on a 2D surface. Where you're missing one dimension, you just have to keep thinking about the third dimension, and you'll continue to create more readable form structures. Everything is a building, including the face. So that's before and that's after. Very, very small changes, but they reflect a big, big understanding distance between where you were before and where you're going to be with the way you like. What I mean is it's the difference between drawing two-dimensionally versus drawing three-dimensionally. Now for this character, again with the proportions, please try to measure your proportions before you start drawing. It may look right, but if you take off all her clothes and you just not have the clothes hiding the disproportionateness anymore, you will see that there are some major uncanny issues happening to the body. So the first thing is the fact that her little shoulder piece is hiding the shoulders. So we don't really see where the shoulder sockets are. So right now what you've done, Nicholas, is you've placed the arm beside the torso instead of placing the arm on top of the torso. So I'm seeing where this little line that you have for the edge of the arm is leading to, and it's not leading soon enough over the rest of the torso. It's all the way in the back. Her arms must be humongous and very, very long. When her arms go down, they must reach all the way to her thighs, sort of, or just a bit above her knees. Another thing that you have an issue with here is the proportion lines on the body, on the face. So I just need to zoom up. I don't know why you guys give me such low res images. I'm not going to steal your images. Trust me, I don't have time for that. It's going to give me a super hard time going into Liquify with these really, really low res images. So don't worry about that, please, if you want me to give you a decent critique. Okay, so class is almost done anyways, but try to get to everyone else. I'll try to do a quick job here. So right now I'm just pushing all of the features back onto a horizontal line, and I'll show you sort of where they were before. I'm not sure you can see because of the pixels, but before, after, before, after. Do you see how the forehead was a bit overextended? The chin was a little bit underextended. The horizontal planes on which you align all the horizontal proportions of the features was tilted towards the right, towards her left ear. And if we look at the body, we'll see how the body was, it's like she was pregnant before. So this is what happens when you don't have a gesture line governing the gesture of your drawing. So if you don't have a decent gesture line, what happens is that you will see your own little anatomy happening, and your bad habits will come through. So that's something to avoid. When you're drawing feet, please make sure that the feet are flat against the ground, that they seem like they can support this character. So even if there's grass hiding some of the feet anatomy, the grass looks pretty flat to me right now. So the feet should be flat up against the grass, the point of the feet, that they stabilize and have a flat surface to them. This foot can go ahead and be as slanted as it wants, it's sort of the girly foot. But this is the one that's taking all the weight of the body on it. Then we've got the way that the head size is being changed by her mohawk, which you should have fall over her face a little bit, because when she tilts back, not her face, her body, when she tilts back, that's what's going to happen. You want to show that objects that can fall and drape are falling and draping. Excuse me. Oh God. It's going to be in the history forever recorded, Istebrak's burp. Sorry, sometimes you just can't control it. I don't know why you people are here. Oh my God. Please remember me as a good woman. Just blame it on the oranges I had earlier, okay? Stupid oranges, so acidic. Alright. Alright, so I'm just making the hair fall a little bit over here. I come for critiques, I stay for the... What a humor. It's just like laughing at my miseries. I'm really not funny. No, like really, like I know I'm not funny. I know I'm not a funny person. I make horrible jokes. I laugh at them before I'm even done saying the joke. Like, that's how pathetic I am. Oh man. Also, you need to sort of balance the colors a little bit. So I'm going to desaturate the hair red, because the hair can't really be that red. It'll be this red, yeah. But the red before was a little bit neon. A little bit super lit, if you hadn't noticed. And then again, with the shading, you guys just gotta think about where the shadows are being cast. Some people just don't like to cast shadows. So literally right now I'm just choosing the dark sides of the cube. That's all I'm doing. Choosing where the cube has its dark sides. Okay, so Control H. Son of a bitch. So that person who said I had gutter language, did they mean my language, like my bad words? Is that what they meant by my vocabulary? Because I understand that. I don't blame them for that. I swear. But as for like the specific words I use in terms of... I know I've been thinking about it a lot. Sue me. It's like a real legit critique, but it's like mean at the same time. It's like, how do I handle this? Alright, so just shading that. Alright, this fudge. The arm over here needs to be in darkness because that arm is hiding under the fur coat. This part of the leg is in shadow as well. And then some of the light should get onto the booby piece. And then her eye socket should be darker. I'm just going to get rid of her smile. I feel like she's just too badass to smile. So I'm just going to get rid of her smile. I feel like she's just washed her belt or something and she's looking out in case someone in Skyrim wants to rape her. Also, her nose is a bit long. Is a bit wide. If we were to see her face from the side, her nose would be as wide as her pupils. We don't want that. I'm going to push her nose in a little bit. Mad Max sort of thing. Yeah. I feel like the sword is twisted in a really weird way. I think that's because of my liquefy pineapple. Yeah, you can smile and still be a badass, of course. I'm just saying, like, she just, you know, she's too busy. Like, who's she gonna smile for? The camera? You know, like, #1 rule in photography, fashion photography, don't fucking smile. Or maybe smile when it's, you know, when you're trying to show something nice, but I heard it's just not to smile, it's just to be as serious as you possibly can. Or be like a personality and you didn't know someone was taking a picture of you. It's like sudden beauty. It's like, oh, you were taking a picture of me? I didn't know. But here I am posing. That sort of thing. I'm going to flip the canvas. Yep. the white of her eyes is way too white. Bring that down. Doesn't need to be that white. Plus, she's out in the sun. She's probably squinting. And the shadow in between the eyes. Now we sort of have a bit more, again, sharp, more accurate anatomy. So before, stomach seemed a bit pregnant. It was a bit out and extended outward. The chin wasn't extended. The forehead was. See, I made the sword tilt a little bit. Then after, I sort of brought all the values back. You can add the detail back to the eyes because I did use the soft brush. I'm sorry. Foot is a bit more flat. Actually, it's not flat enough. Damn. Really would appreciate it if you guys gave me higher resolution. Okay. So flatten that and the background being blue. I think you should just make the background gray. Because it's just too... Oops. It's not really important. Oopsie, cancel. It's not really that important for the character for you to have any colored background for the character design, I mean. And then I would darken the whole character against the gray background, and then desaturate. And that starting to look like more of a solid character design setup than what you had before, where it was a bit too colorful and you kind of confused three main shades. Like you had like an aqua, a blue, and like a purple, and they were all really pastel and really faded colors. Just try to make it a gray background. It's clean like that. Employers want to see that in your portfolio. It's more powerful. It's a clean setup. You're just trying to showcase this one specific character you drew. If it's not going to have a background landscape, don't try to do a background. Please don't do a graphic background with like getting the gradient tool and just like throwing a random gradient in the background hoping it works. Just don't do it. It's not going to work. Trust me. Why? Because I did that and it didn't work. Okay, so avoid coloring the background. Just make it a nice clean gray. It's what we want to see. And it'll make your portfolio look more solid. And you'll have consistent looking pieces in your portfolio. So if you choose like purple for a background for one image, the other image is going to have an orange background, the other has a red and gray background. That's too inconsistent. And in a portfolio we want to see consistency. We want to see a gray background, consistent throughout your images, and nice clean, uneventful background that will allow the focal point, which is where all the information is, which is where the character is, to be showcased. Very crisp, very uninterrupted. Alright, I'll send that back to you. And then finally this piece. Okay, so one portrait. We gotta have at least one portrait, I guess. So the way you drew this eye, it wasn't sitting on the let me give you a little demonstration. When I think about the top half of the face, I think about it like this. So this is the forehead leading down into the tip of the nose, and this is the tip of the nose leading down into the chin. All of the eyes and everything have to sit on these horizontal planes. Right now what you're telling me is, instead of this, keep this in mind, you have something like where this part of the face sits like that, and then we have a sudden edge, and we're seeing this eye drawn from this angle. The way you drew that eye, it seems like you had the reference for that eye from a person who wasn't in 3/4 view, someone who was from front view. So this eye, the diagnosis is you drew it as if you were drawing it front view. You weren't drawing it to match the proportion and the angle and the perspective of 3/4 view. Okay? So that's the first thing that popped out. Yeah, because why do you have this problem a lot? If you're anything like me, and when I was starting out, all I did was draw eyes, and all I did was draw one kind of eye. And there was no other kind of eye other than that kind of eye. And everything had to match that kind of eye. I didn't care if I had to do a 3/4 view. It didn't matter. I always drew that eye in that angle. So what you have to do, you can literally just morph it. You do have to change the lighting though, but you can literally just do a little doohickey like this and make sure that the eye is sitting on the horizontal planes. Just as a little bit of morphing, and we can just see the before and after. Before, after, before, after. We've compressed the eye just a tiny bit, because that's the only thing that happens in three-quarter view. There is no foreshortening, just compression. So I have to compress the length of the eye. It's Ado's painting. Alright, so I'm going to merge that down. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you some basic shades you have to have in there. Let me get multiply on. So one of the most important shades is, of course, the eye socket shade. Then we have the shade of the chin. I'm going to treat this as a grayscale because I don't think I have time to cover color. She's a bit pink. She's extremely pink. Where you wanna be right now is over here. You want to be over here somewhere. Just give me a second to find the perfect spot. Okay, this is where you want to be in base tone. This is where you were. Do you see that pink? You just had pink. If you want to paint a darker skin looking, this kind of looks like a darker skin looking woman. She kind of looks like a certain actress that I know. She's really pretty. But this is where you want to be. These are the natural warm skin tones where it was a completely acidic red tone. You don't want to do that. But instead of all of that, I'm just going to treat it as a grayscale. So the thing that you need to do is blend this cheek into the shadow of her veil. Blend the neck into the shadow of her veil. Blend her temples into the sides. I did darken it, so let me just raise the values just a little bit. Okay, actually, yeah, no, yeah. Free transform. Before I touched your values, that I know what I'm critiquing. So yes, same things. Blend her head into the veil and into the surrounding darks, because the head emerges from those. Cast the lower half of the face is always in a shadow, no matter what, if the light is a Rembrandt type lighting, where the light is coming from a 45-degree angle. Then there is the shadow of the eye sockets, and then the white of the eyes is too bright, Ado. Eye whites don't get that bright, okay? They're not that white. So areas that do have light on them are the chin, the milk mustache leading up into the cheeks, the upper lip, every time I talk about Bob and Steve or milk mustache, I feel like I'm teaching a kindergarten class. I don't mind, it's just, it's no dignity. Okay. So I'm just throwing those lights over here, and I'm going to blend them in a second, but this is typically the light source that you want. This is typically it. I'm going to blend that. For the sake of time, I don't have time to blend it perfectly, I'm very sorry. Alright, but this is sort of how you want to sculpt the head. You want to sculpt it in this way, where you're treating it as a cube, as if it was a sculpture before you even got there. And the highlights are just on the very protrudy parts, the parts that stick out the most. And if you want to unify the pupil with the rest of the eye, that's where you bring in the brights of the eyes. It's in the waters. The eyeballs are white, but sometimes the room is so dark, there's very little white coming through, and there's not enough light reaching that eyeball to really showcase its value, its specific value, its anatomical value. Sometimes it's just not that decent a light source. So you get dark eyeballs. The upper lip is usually darker than the lower lip. And we've got the Cupid's bow. We've got the lower half of the nose in shadow, which you need to remember. Beautiful theme, by the way. I love the veil. Queen of Sheba. Oh, this is the lady who slept with Solomon. Ooh. Love that story. It's so romantic. I've used a very bad reference. I think it was a very overexposed photograph. Yeah, those are dangerous. Ooh, you know where that's from? You know Puss in Boots. You know the cat, the hype cat that's always in the background? He always goes like, ooh, when someone does a diss. That guy's my best friend. Okay, so I'm just pushing in the nostril just a little bit. Kind of trying to match the nostril. Sometimes if the other nostril isn't visible, Ado, don't try to show it. I mean, like this little bit you have here is so unnecessary. Just get rid of it. Just like that. Just get rid of it. If you don't see it in the reference, if you see it in the reference, you have to redo it in a way that makes more sense. You know, we would see more of one side of the nostril. We would see an accurate, proportionate compression of the other nostril, because that's what happens in this kind of angle, perspective on the face. Then we have the dark spots. So I'm going to lower the value of the lips completely and bring in the dark spots only where we need them. So the corners of her lips. And remember how I showed you last class? We slowly build up the dark. Now I have hiccups. Sorry. If I don't eat before class, I get really tired. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to sharpen her lips. Beautiful theme, by the way. Very, very cute. Remember, don't overdo the shadows of the nose. You don't really need them that much. The shadows on either side of the nose, they're not that necessary. Sharpen and sharp mask. Okay, I'm just blending in the lips. The lips also need to be matched over here. And if you want to make her look younger, you just have to fill in her cheeks. Don't let us see the exact silhouette of her cheekbones. Okay, just, I'm just pushing down the lips to match the horizontal planes. Compressing this eye. Highlighting the high point of the nose. Not making the eyebrows too dark. And blending the high point of the cheeks into the background color of the eyebrows. This is something I do. I just darken the outer side of the eyebrow. Just it's more elegant. It's kind of in now as well, trendy. It's like an ombre look for the eyebrows. If I did a beauty thing where I would like put makeup and I would it's like a beauty guru video channel. Would you guys watch with my voice and everything? I'll be there. I'll be doing makeup videos. I think only my female watchers would watch that. Be like, oh my god, Istebrak, you're so good at makeup. I'm just throwing some more light over here on the upper lids. But I'll darken them in a second. This is too light. So what I have to do is darken it soon and just make it match. Okay, I'm sorry. I love portraits, so I think I'm just need a moment alone with this painting. Just gonna flip it horizontally. Now I still see the eye still has some trouble. Thank you for the high res, Ado. I'm just gonna increase the size and push it up. It's gonna look a little bit different from where it was for you, but I'm just really obsessed with portraits. Okay, so sorry, I just I got away with myself. So before you over outline the lips, you just needed to darken one and sort of blend it in with the skin around. The eyes are looking from two different perspectives, where now they sort of match. The face is now sculpted in a way where it seems like it's protruding and coming out of a dark shadow and into the light that's catching it. So it's got high points. I did desaturate, I'm sorry. And I lightened the lips and gave darkness only in the corners of the lips. You see what I did? I just shaded around the cube. I'm just thinking about the head as a cube. The major shadows need to be there. Long brush strokes that represent long shadows. If you're not doing, everybody listen, if you're not doing large brush strokes for large shadows somewhere in the process, there's something wrong. And you're not going to do a decent large brush stroke with a tiny brush stroke, with a tiny brush for the large core shadows of the face. You have to make sure you have the large brush strokes there to consider the large core shadows on this large object. Okay, you cannot paint the whole process with one tiny brush. It's not going to work. It's gonna sabotage you. It's gonna backfire later when you're being critiqued and your mean teacher throws a stick at you. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate you guys being here and waiting through every critique, and I hope they help you. I'm sorry if I seem a bit stern or mean sometimes. I really don't mean it in a way to break down your motivation. I do it in a way where it is an attempt to push you forward, to show where your painting could be and even further than what I'm capable of. There's amazing improvement available in the class showcase. Amazing improvement that I've been posting from other students. It's just you right now are at an earlier stage of who you're going to be later. That's a given. And if you keep doing what you're doing, you're not going to stay the same. You're not going to draw the same drawing next year, this day. It's going to be a completely different kind of person, a completely different kind of artist, but with the same spirit and the same gusto. And that's why you're all here, and I prop all of you for being here, because it's a lot to have some pompous prick from New York tell you how you should have painted your painting. I'm just one voice. There are many other artists out there who are a lot better than me, who will be kind enough to give you a critique. I think that you guys should really keep yourself exposed as much as possible to critiques, so that you benefit as much as possible from them. So a little links for you guys. Here is the Facebook male with soft brush. Okay, this is a really funny question, by the way. A male with soft brush, it's like asking, I don't know, it's a really weird question because you can paint a male with a soft brush. The only problem is that the soft brush overblends. The soft brush is a fiend. It'll overblend everything. It's out to get you. You have to control the soft brush. You have to tell the soft brush exactly where you need the info, the blending info, and where you don't. So where you would need blending in a female face is pretty much everywhere. We don't have that much bone jutting out because there isn't that much testosterone driving that kind of bone buildup. We don't have jaw lines that are chiseled. We don't have chiseled noses. We don't have chiseled brow bone. We don't look like Neanderthals, basically, is what I'm saying. Girls rule, boys rule. The point of all of this is that if you're going to use the soft brush to blend a boy's face, please remember there are areas of the masculine face that have an actual harsh edge. So the soft brush will overblend. The soft brush will overblend and will make it look feminine because what it will do is overblend areas and blend areas that should otherwise be very solid and should be very sharp. So areas of the brow bone, areas of the cheekbone, areas of the chin, shadows on the nose, contour shadows on the nose, if the nose is a bit more chiseled or more structured than a female nose. Females have pretty much gradual tone everywhere, so the soft brush is friendly because in that case, the soft brush is still a bitch, but it's in that case it's not going to cause that big a problem because it will still blend areas that are supposed to be blended. So cheeks are very smooth, chin lines are very smooth. Women don't have big brow, Neanderthal brow bones. They don't have excessive bone structure everywhere. Even if you can say a girl's manly face. If a girl has a manly face, even at that point, the fact that she is a female and has female hormones and all of that still makes her look feminine. For some reason, she still looks more feminine than a man. It's very difficult for a man who has testosterone to end up looking like a woman. Even with all the drag makeup on, you can tell from a mile away, Adam's apple or not, if it's a masculine face, because simply the bone structure. An artist has the training to see that, and the training, anatomy training, to see the kind of specific bone structure you find in males versus females. And just don't overblend. The soft brush will overblend. If you're using a harsh edge brush that's a bit squared, they'll do a better job. You'll find that you'll draw a better man with that. But if you have to use the soft brush, just remember, don't blend areas that are supposed to be bony. That's the short answer. You win again, soft brush. You're calling me a what? Should I send a painting even if I know what needs improving? Sure. I can try my best to offer a new perspective on the painting. Yeah, exactly. A second opinion. Thank you, Pineapple. So eloquent instead of me with my stupid stumbles. How about improving if you already know it? Estelle will just tell you what you already know. Probably, yeah. I might tell it in my own way, like my own way of understanding, like how I taught myself how to do it. So the story mode or the narrative behind why I use cubes and all of that, I might just give you that and might, help other students. And it might help you remember it better. But if you already know, there's really no point in letting me critique your work other than seeing what the before and after would look like or how I would. Like if you know about cubes, all you have to do is just keep studying and put in the time. Have a great day and thank you for coming. The next meet is on Tuesday, the 19th. That is our next meetup. If you guys would like anything critiqued, please send me something on Facebook and I will have it in the queue. Bye-bye.